Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars The Black Series action figure review. Today we're taking a look at Ahsoka Tano from the Ahsoka series, and this look is based on how she appears towards the end of the show on the planet Peridea. I must admit, of the two looks Ahsoka has in the show, this one is my favourite. I think the costume looks fantastic, the colours work really well, and it translates really nicely into action figure form. Hasbro have done a great job with this figure. The sculpted details in the outfit itself are really good, and the head sculpt on this figure is miles ahead of the original Ahsoka figure that came out in the Mandalorian line. I think the details and the features are a lot more delicate, and the likeness itself is far more accurate to Rosario Dawson's appearance as Ahsoka in the series. So I'm really happy to finally have this figure in the collection. It pairs really nicely with other figures from the show. So without further ado, let's dive into this review and take a look at Ahsoka. So we'll kick things off as always by taking a look at the packaging that Ahsoka comes in. As you can see, we do have the standard style Black Series box for this one, with the colour band around the front of the box, the number in the series and name of the character just up the side of the window, and then down the spine a very cool mural image of Ahsoka looking very cool indeed. On the reverse side we have a brief description of the character, that image once again, and that continuation of the colour band with the number in the Ahsoka series once more. So pretty standard stuff. Again, nothing really to write home about, as I've said in previous reviews. Once you've seen one of these boxes, you've pretty much seen them all, but the contents are definitely worth checking out. So let's dive into this review and take a look at the Peridea version of Ahsoka Tano. And here she is, and I've got to say once again, I'm really impressed with how this figure turned out. Not only do I absolutely love this look for Ahsoka in the series, but like I said at the start of the review, this costume and this look for the character really translates well into action figure form, and Hasbro have done a fantastic job with this figure overall. From sculpted details to paint applications, everything about this one is really crisp and clean, and I absolutely love how this figure turned out. The sculpted details on the head, for example, are fantastic. I think, as I alluded to at the start of the review, that this head sculpt far surpasses the original Mandalorian version of Ahsoka. I think the likeness to Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka is much more accurate. Like I said, the facial features are sculpted in a much more delicate way. She's less harsh faced this time around, and she's just got this very mindful, very wise look that just looks so good. Like I said, that likeness is absolutely spot on, and the paint applications really go a long way to bring this one to life. Obviously there's photoreal in play, but the vibrant colours, the crisp lines on the headdress, everything about this head sculpt is absolutely spot on, and I think Hasbro would be wise to reuse this for any future Ahsoka figures going forward that are of course based on Rosario's likeness. Really good head sculpt, solid stuff, and yeah, I'm really impressed with how that turned out. Like I said, the sculpted detail and the overall quality do continue throughout the rest of the figure. You've got really nice sculpted details on the forearm gauntlets. The belt is really nicely done with all these really intricate little details hanging off it. And that does continue around the back of the figure, as you can see, with these sort of material strands, these panels down the side of the belt. They just look really good, and the sculpted detail once again on this figure is absolutely spot on. She's got this really cool warrior-like appearance. These shin and forearm sort of armor pieces look really good. Yeah, it's just a solid sculpt. Really nice stuff on the part of Hasbro with this figure. As you can see, she does feature two little nibs on the belt itself. These can be used for lightsaber storage, and in terms of accessories, she does come with two lightsabers. So as you can see, she comes with the shorter style lightsaber and the more traditional lengthier blade, which looks really nice. The translucent sort of white colour on these blades look really cool, and the hilts themselves are really nicely sculpted. All the appropriate details are there, and like I said, the hilts themselves can be attached to the belt once you detach the blades. Now, the only complaint that I do have about this figure is her ability to actually hold the lightsabers. The hilts themselves are very thin, very narrow, and as such the grip on the hands just allows the hilts just to slip through, and you really have to find a sweet spot in order for the figure to hold those hilts without them sliding out of the hand. It's not a major issue, and I'm sure a bit of boiling water and some reshaping of the hands will easily solve that issue, but it's just something to point out about this figure if you haven't picked this one up yet. Other than that, visually absolutely stunning stuff. I think she looks great. Like I said, the sculpted detail on this figure is really what sold me on it, and the colour palette as well on the costume and those paint applications are absolutely stellar as well. Really solid stuff all round on this figure. Really impressed with how it turned out, and definitely recommend picking this one up if you are a fan of the character. Really worth adding to the collection in that respect. Now, if we remove the lightsabers from the hands and attach the hilts to the belt like so, that does give us a much better look at the articulation that this figure has to offer. She does feature pretty standard Black Series articulation, obviously with the omission of a couple of articulation points, which we'll touch on in just a bit, but as standard she does feature a ball jointed head, and as normal there is a ball joint at the base of the neck and the bottom of the head, so that does give us a little bit more range of movement. However, the head tails on Ahsoka are not quite as flexible as those on Shaak Ti, and that does hinder a little bit of the articulation. You can't get a really wide range of movement out of the head itself, but you can still pose this figure in all the right ways, so that's not a major issue. We have butterfly joints at the shoulders, which do help when posing this figure up with the lightsabers in hand. We have a hinge at the elbow and hinges at the wrist. There's a ball joint at the torso, and we also have ball hinged hips. These flaps down the side of the belt don't hinder any of that articulation. They're pretty flexible, so that's really good. But as you can see from looking at the legs, we do have the omission of the swivel cut at the top of the thigh. Now, I have seen quite a few people criticise this move and, you know, sort of question why Hasbro have done it. For me personally, it's not a major issue. It doesn't affect posability on this figure. It doesn't stop her from being able to be posed up on the shelf in any which way you'd need or see fit. So I don't really understand the criticism. I'm sure it affects other figures in different ways, but with this one, it's absolutely fine and, in my opinion, is not missed. We also have hinges at the knees and the hinges and rockers at the ankle. So pretty standard articulation. Like I said, nothing really to write home about, but you can pose this figure up in multiple different ways, and that's essentially all you really need. The articulation hindrance in the head is a little bit of an issue, and the swivel cuts at the upper thigh, those being removed, is questionable. I'm not entirely sure why Hasbro have gone back and taken those out, but like I said, from a personal standpoint, I don't miss those, so I'm not going to spend too long complaining about it. But visually, this is a stunning figure. She looks absolutely fantastic, lightsabers in hand or by the side on the belt there. I'm really happy with how this figure turned out, really thrilled to have it in the collection, and like I said, she pairs really nicely with other characters from the show. So that's going to conclude this review on Ahsoka Tano from Peridea. Once again, an excellent addition to the Black Series line, a really nicely sculpted figure with some really nice details, a phenomenal likeness to the character, and some of the most crisp paint applications I've seen on a Black Series figure in recent memory. The only way that I could see Hasbro improving this one would have been by including a soft goods robe, although I firmly expect Hasbro to re-release this one somewhere down the line with said robe. They did it with Baylan Skoll, they did it with Shin Hati, so don't be surprised to see them do it with Ahsoka. Other than that, a fantastic addition to the line once again. Really recommend picking this one up, and if you'd like to add it to your own collection, be sure to hit the link in the video description. At the time of recording, Ahsoka is in stock and available to buy over at staractionfigures.co.uk, and this one is definitely worthy of an addition to the collection. So I'll be back with some more reviews very soon. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, as always, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.